Laura, so wonderful to have you here
Great to see
again
you.
in all ways.
Fan of Bettina. I have nothing else to say. And
Um, uh,
I met Bettina at a conference in Coimbra, a wonderful conference in Coimbra, in 2019, and I heard her sing and play, and everybody was completely riveted, including me. So that's my introduction of myself.
oh gosh,
And I'm a reluctant, reluctant to be videoed, but I'm gonna let Bettina, run things.
well, thank you so much for being here and just talking to me about the Iliad and this lovely day. At least it's lovely in California. Is it lovely over there?
It's lovely. It's lovely here too. Let me see if
Oh,
I can
oh
show
my
you
gosh,
some of
that's wonderful. So it's just going to be sunset soon.
it. That's Vermont.
Wow.
Um, yes.
And
Oh, I'm glad it's lovely there.
and you're about to teach in NYU in about a month or so?
Yes. Well, yeah, beginning of September, right?
September is your schedule, and you just came from teaching in Chicago and
Well, I actually taught this year. I taught in Chicago in the winter because I had a sabbatical in London in the
right.
spring. So that was a great pleasure. NYU has a site in London, in a number of places, including London, and so I was connected with that, and I had an office. But the wonderful thing about it is that it's about a 15-minute walk from the British. It's right around the corner from the British
Oh my
Museum.
gosh, how fun. How
15
totally
minute
fun.
walk from the British Library. So no, it's great. It was great to be there.
So we're talking about Alfred Lord and how like it seems that people keep quoting and requoting certain passages from his tremendous book.
It's like what you're experiencing now that you're actually performing
Yeah.
it, performing the Iliad. I mean, Lord's point that um, I mean, that as the singer, performs, he's composing. I mean, that composition and performance are the same process. I mean, this is why it's so strenuous because you're not just sort of singing something in a rote way. You're actually re-experiencing it and thinking about it. And
That's it. I'm re-experiencing it, and it's really a genuinely pleasurable experience taking the time to read these lines and reconnecting to characters and
yeah,
rethinking them, having sympathy for
you
them.
had that beautiful discussion that you led and so forth at the Center for Hellenic Studies. And on the Center for Hellenic Studies website, there is a book by Katie Kretler, um, which is called Becoming the Character. I think that's what it's called. And it really is about that dynamic of the performer inhabiting, the Homeric bard, inhabiting the character. I think it would interest you as you've been starting now with these wonderful, wonderful renditions, these wonderful performances. And I've now, listened to a couple of them, and I was totally mesmerized.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I just wondered, was there anything as you were singing, I mean, was there anything that surprised you? I mean, did you sort of, you've read it many times, you know, I mean, in this wonderful sequence and slowly and
Yeah.
carefully and so forth. So what,
Okay, so what surprised me this time around is when I really looked at the wrath of Apollo. And then holos is of course, anger, but sometimes there's translating it as wrath. But menin is definitely menis is wrath. And the wrath of Apollo on this 10th year is really just I stopped and I thought about it. I'm like, wow, wait a moment, hang on, this is the 10th year one that got me, that he's experiencing this wrath, this rage now, and two, that he's so pro Trojan, like at,
yeah,
at all of the Iliad he's pro Trojan, so is his entire family, Artemis, Leto, all pro-Trojan. And he keeps hanging out in Pergamos. That's he just decided he's there. He's gonna be over there, and so I don't really know what the past 9 years what he's been up to. And Achilles and Apollo are introduced both in the first 15 lines about their wrath and their rage. And what is the parallel? Why Apollo?
Yeah.
In the same way you said in your wonderful, powerful book, The Power of Thetis, why is Achilles, why is the son of Thetis the hero of the Iliad? I want to say, why is Apollo, why is Leto's child the main god of the Iliad? I like want to pose that question. The fact that this is like the anti-heroic god and the anti-heroic hero are the main characters introduced in the beginning. What is this really saying about the tragedy of war, and how we might want them, we might be rooting for them, but they're not going to be the winners ultimately.
Well, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
When you say the unheroic hero, that's Achilles that you're.
Yeah, Achilles. So many people think of him as an anti-hero, right? And in a few interviews, I've had conversations about how really Achilles has so many heroic qualities that people just like to ignore because they like to glorify Hector, or really talk about, I don't know. There seems to be trends sometimes when people just want to slam down an Achilles or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, I think there is, you must have this with students, and I've had it with students too, this assumption that um, Achilles' anger over the taking of Briseis is somehow, um, sort of childish, and that, you know, he's he's spoiled and he's being spoiled brat and so forth. But that's not the Iliad's view. I mean,
Yeah.
it's there. Let me say a couple of things in terms of your, reflections, which I think are very valuable. In terms of Apollo and Achilles and the sort of face-off, actually, Greg Nage's book, The Best of the Achaeans.
I need to talk to Greg. I really do. I hope he had a
Yes,
chat with me.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, and he can answer these questions very well. I mean, better than anyone. But I think the thing that one has to remember is, this is not, um, the Iliad doesn't, um, it's not informed by, Judeo-Christian values. I mean, the Iliad, doesn't take humility to be a virtue. Um, and I mean, it is true. You've just been in Delphi, and the thing that in front of the Delphi, know thesauton, know thyself. I mean, the idea is, know that you're human, you're not divine. That's what people are supposed to remember. But so in that sense, one's supposed to understand one's place in the whole cosmic structure. But there's but the idea that people are supposed to be sort of humble and modest and so forth, I mean, that's not a value in pre-Christian Greece, let's say. I mean, in in the Odyssey, in book 9, Odysseus says when he identifies himself, he says, I'm Odysseus, whose fame goes, Kleos, whose fame goes up to heaven. And no one says to him, oh, don't boast, your fame only goes up to the, second floor. I mean, it's people are entitled to say and expected to say uh, what they know to be the case about their own strengths, let's say. And so the idea that Achilles is somehow, that he's somehow not behaving according to a heroic template or something, I think is, it sort of mistakes what the the expectations of an Iliadic audience would have been. I mean, the problem is that to respond to Agamemnon as he does causes terrible suffering, but it's not that he was wrong to react that way.
Yeah, Nestor agrees with him. Nestor, who's supposed to be the voice of reason,
Yeah,
completely agreed and said, Agamemnon, don't take the girl. Don't take
yeah,
the girl. And Achilles, on your end, don't be
yeah.
talking so low to Agamemnon, who is the king, but there's still a balance. He's still within his right to
Oh,
be
sure.
to
No, it's
be
the appropriate
angry.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it was an
I mean,
appropriate response
yeah,
according
I
to
mean,
Nestor.
he is the greater warrior, and um, he doesn't just have to bend over for Agamemnon. But
Yeah.
um, there's a wonderful book also that you would be interested in on Menace, on um, there actually are a couple of works on terms for anger in the Iliad, but this wonderful book by Leonard Molnar, of from Brandeis University, on Menace, the Menace of Achilles, and that would be, I think. I'll send you these.
Yes, please. I've been meaning to read some of
Like
Lenny's
Katie
work
Kramer.
because
Yeah.
it's like I've read Greg's work and I've read Joel's work and I need to read Lenny's work. That
Oh,
only makes
absolutely.
sense.
Oh yeah, no, it's beautiful. He has beautiful stuff. As you, I'm sure, know, and Lenny talks about this in a much, I mean, in a very extensive and insightful way. I mean, Manus is a it's a noun. That word for wrath, it's a noun that is only used, it's only predicated of Achilles and the gods. In other words, other people don't have Manus. So there's some, I mean, that's a way of um, that's a way of uh, distinguishing Achilles as somebody who, at some, um, in some dimension, he really is, um, you know, on a godlike plane, so to speak. So,
Everybody has needs to know their place in the cosmos. He knows his place is to choose one of two destinies, and he chose that destiny to fight. And so, knowing he has a short life, I think it's very valid that he has a short life, he has a short time to enjoy his prizes.
yeah,
And so his one of his
yeah,
prizes being Briseis,
yeah.
and one for whom he feels affection. He, as he said in,
In book 9.
yeah, I think yeah, book 9. It's that's something that people are just not getting. That if you have a short time, then those things are more meaningful to you. Those people whom you're with, his companion is even more Patroclus is somehow it's more poignant if he loses Patroclus, if he loses Briseis. He already lost the idea of being with his mother. I mean, he can still see her now, but once he dies, he'll never see her again. That's the idea, right?
That's for sure.
So, and he already when he tells Agamemnon, "Fine, I'm not going to fight for you anymore. I'm going to go home. I'm going to let my father pick a bride for me," and all these things. You see what he had given up to come to the Trojan War. Like you start seeing that other life he could have had. This is actually um, something I was thinking about when you were talking about the things that could have happened that didn't. And that's twice.
Yeah.
The first one is he could have killed Agamemnon, but Athena stopped him. And then this one, he could have had this life, but he didn't choose it. Like he knew what he was giving up, and he chose this one. So anyway, that was my thought and my feelings, having gone to line 215 so far, singing it. I'm really ruminating over all these moments.
Yeah. Well, I think you're I think you're 100% right. And line 215, that's right, because I just heard you with Athena. That's an interesting thing when you think about the role of the gods in all of this, uh, that Athena says, Hera sent me because um, she loves both of you equally, like, don't do that, she loves both of you equally. I mean, that's a tough position to be in, to love both Achilles and Agamemnon equally. But that idea, I mean, there's a one, again, I'm keeping, suggesting things, but there's a very powerful book called The Pity of Achilles. And it's about pity and the way it's the sort of operations of pity in the Iliad, by Jinyo Kim, who's a professor at Queen's College, emeritus, now emerita. I'll send you this list of things that I think would be fun for you. And I've learned a lot from them. I learned a lot from her book. So, that idea of the gods who, they can intervene out of care and out of pity. But so not only out of anger, right? But part of what the Iliad, and this is one of the things that's so moving about it. I mean, there's a limit to how much the gods can intervene out of pity. It's like the death of Sarpedon. I mean, Zeus weeps, but that's what is distinctively Iliadic. I mean, you can't save anybody from dying. I mean, temporarily you can, but not forever. So um so what the gods can and can't do, is it's like your friend Thetis, I mean, she could do a lot, but she can't keep her son from dying.
On the,
So that
on the Pity of
she can
Achilles,
sing a Bettina lullaby, but she can't keep him from dying.
you know,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. I'm going to record me actually saying the lullaby of Thetis one of these days on my YouTube
Great.
channel.
I hope so.
I haven't tried to do without crying. Or maybe I will. I'll just let myself go. However I feel about it.
I
Uh,
hope so.
oh gosh. But on the pity of Achilles, uh, I I just can't remember which book now it was, where he was completely lacking pity in
Yeah,
for one of Priam's sons.
yeah, 21.
Mm. So one of Priam's sons was saying, "Look, you just had enslaved me. Like you actually
Yeah,
had just done that, and I had just escaped, and I've just been finally enjoying time not being
yeah,
an enslaved person, and then
yeah,
here I am, and I'm gonna beg you to please not kill me." And Achilles is like, "I'm sorry, like oh, he doesn't say I'm sorry. He says, I'm gonna kill you." And it
but he calls him, yeah, he calls him philos, you know. So it's this sense of, I mean, people are linked by their mortality, and what he says is, look, everybody's got to go, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I mean, Patroclus died and he was better than you, and I'm gonna die, so just this is what it is. That's what it means to be a warrior. I mean, it's what it means to be a mortal, you know.
Pointing out the word philos,
Especially,
right? The diction also makes me stop very often as I'm looking, and I do understand that different bards, different editors had gotten their hands on this by the time the eventual manuscript that we get. So, whether by tradition, oral tradition, or the people who actually were working on in the actual manuscript of this, makes me really look at the diction and stop and wonder what was the intent of this passage? What's going on in this passage? How are we supposed to be looking at the characters in this passage, looking at the diction that they're using, how they're referring to each other, how they're referring to other
yeah,
characters. Um, you know, this is the literature, the completely literature side of me, but also sometimes, yeah, no, this is just purely literature because when I think of the historical side of things, like people imagined, right? Because they're writing about something that happened centuries before, they imagined that these warriors had these moments of compassion or non-compassion. They're imagining very human elements in these moments where it's so often the loss of limbs and so on that we're talking about here, or somebody gets injured and then their companions take them away to try to save them. And I'm jumping way
yeah,
ahead of the story, of course, but
yeah. No, you're entirely right. I mean, there's um, you know, a study that was done by a humorist called Bernard Fennick, and I now I'm blanking on what the name of that book is, but it might be something like Studies in the Iliad. I mean, it'll come to me in the middle of the night. But one of the things that he points out is that uh, in descriptions of warriors entering the battle in the Iliad, it's always systematically out of either pity. I mean, this is, you know, when you speak of the diction, I mean, these are um, these are the terms that are used either out of pity because they see a friend or a brother or somebody, um, you know, being, struggling uh, um, in the battle and or wounded. So either they go in either out of pity or out of grief because the person has, the friend or the brother has been killed, and so or out of or is is dying or likely to die, or out of vengeance, out of a an impulse to avenge. Nobody ever goes into battle saying, well, my armor is getting rusty, I think I'll give it a little sharpening and so forth. But it's always so systematically. I mean, no one ever goes into battle saying, I think my store of prizes is running low. I think I need somebody else's armor, on my as a trophy or something. No, I mean, people go into battle exclusively out of the these emotions of pity or grief or the desire to avenge, and that seems to me, so that is systematic about the way in the battle books, when somebody is described as entering the field, that's why that's why he does it. So it seems to me what you're saying about, the Iliad's interest in, in loyalty, in, in affection, in however you want to think about it, attachment, commitment, and so forth. All I'm doing is sort of reinforcing your point, that's, it's not, the Iliad isn't, it's not about, just about power plays and so forth.
Yeah, so much about family. When you see all the brothers for
Yeah,
fighting for the to protect their brother, to take away to avenge their brother.
yeah,
Yeah, it's actually it's really amazing. And
yeah. That's really what it's all about. It's about the band of brothers,
yeah, I even just looking at the Nestor passage that's upcoming. So
Ah,
I've had to come up with a Nestor theme. And when I come up with the themes, I have to think about certain things like, what am I trying to say with this theme? So it's a heroic theme, but it can't be the same heroic theme that I'll
sure.
be using for Hector. It's a
Yeah,
heroic theme which I'll be using only for the older generation. So I'll be using it for Priam, for
I've
Nestor.
heard of the older generation. Just kidding.
It's just interesting how, when Nestor says, I fought alongside
Yeah,
giants,
wow.
men who were giants like Theseus and I'm gonna not say his name right. Pirithous. No,
There is this, yeah.
Pirithous. uh,
Yeah,
and a few others. Darius, I guess. Um, he names a few whom I had never heard about. There's some that I've heard about, but others I haven't. And he's saying, and so they listen to me, and so you will listen to me now. And every time there are passages like that where they talk about the other wars, the previous wars, where these great, great warriors were, I'm thinking, that's so cool. Like, I don't know. It just makes you remember that they're just in part of this tradition of
yeah,
wars and warriors and brothers and
yeah,
sons who are fighting, and they're all connected with each other, and so they have stories, and they have loyalties, and they have ties, and it's just amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. Well, that's it. I just wanted to
no,
say.
no, I mean, I'm in entire agreement with you. There was something I was going to ask you about about the themes. No, I think that's what I was trying to say before about when we were talking earlier about um, Albert Lord's you know, insights about composition and performance. That is, you know, as you're performing, you're really recreating, you know, that. Yeah. So yeah, no, I think I can understand how demanding this is, you know, and why, you know, 20 or 30 lines a day is plenty. Yeah, no, I can imagine. Um, and so what about, I mean, I guess what I'm wondering is do you think of, when you're thinking of a theme, are you thinking about a theme connected to a character or connected to an episode or an exchange? In other words, you know, I does Agamemnon deserve a theme? I'm not sure about that.
I definitely gave him a theme though.
Oh, you did? Okay, well, that was
I did.
generous.
I gave him a theme, and I don't know if I'll
Well,
be
it
using it.
seems more about characters and how they speak and so forth. Yeah,
Yes, it's
interesting.
how they're coming in, and it's since I'm improvising as I'm going along in many ways. So the main theme song is Achilles' theme song, but it's also just like the main idea of the Iliad. But then if he's talking to other people, I do like one line of his theme, and then I start integrating it with others. So there's like Achilles' main theme song, and then um, Chryses comes in. And when Chryses comes in, I use the same theme melody that I use when Athena later comes in, because I'm thinking of it as like when humans are talking to gods, or when gods are showing pity, or when gods are trying um, to soothe or calm a situation. So more along those lines. So it's when a human is praying for something. Um, so that's the theme that I was thinking. But when Apollo comes, I had to change it for just 10 lines because it's like Apollo's wrath, and he's creating the plague, and I thought it's like the plague, Apollo's wrath thing. This has to be new. I don't know when else I'll be using it, but some sort of rage wrath thing that doesn't belong to just humans. So
So
that's
that's interesting. So I mean, one could have imagined, um, you know, in a somewhat more mechanical way, that the crises theme and the Apollo theme would be linked because he's the priest of Apollo. But you're right that it's more interesting to think about, you know, what are they, not what their status is or what their status in relation to each other is, but what are they actually doing? Are they, yeah, yeah,
what
no,
what is what is their
I
role? What is their act? What is
yeah,
the
yeah,
action
I
that
mean, what are they trying to achieve? I think,
they
no, I
carry?
think
Yeah.
that
So
makes a
then,
lot of sense.
when Agamemnon starts
That
talking,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I can't just be doing like this wrath of Apollo sound when Agamemnon comes in, because I'm thinking for Agamemnon, it's he is somebody whom the gods like. So I can't just be doing like just a bad guy theme, like a Darth Vader theme. It has to have a theme where there's a sad thing to it too, because he thinks he's the hero. He really does. Like he believes this, but we all know what eventually happens to Agamemnon, or in later stuff. So there's something that we have to feel bad. We kind of should feel a little bit bad for Agamemnon because he thinks he's right. So it's not
I
entirely.
mean, yeah, you know, I mean, the poem doesn't, you know, it doesn't oversimplify. I mean, in other words, you know, he is the king, he has responsibilities and so on and so forth. But I think uh, but I think it also, and you know, eventually he has his, you know, he has a heroic moment. He has an Aristeia. I don't know, heroic moment, but he has a, you know, a moment of, um, you know, um, effectiveness on the battlefield. Let's say is Aristeia. Uh, but I think the poem is, it is really trying to, you know, trying to emphasize the violation, in a sense, of what the code of, as it were, mutual respect and so forth in this band of brothers consists of. I mean, I'm sorry to use all these cliches, but you know, and this is the thing that he completely violates um, by taking away uh, Briseus. I mean, you know, I mean, it's, he's really shooting himself in the foot. Unfortunately, he's shooting everybody else too. But you know, so you're much nicer about him than I am, I think.
Well, I absolutely hated him, I have to say, before I started singing him.
Mm,
But
interesting.
then I was thinking when it came time to do a theme song, I thought, what is the most vile sort of like music? Do I have to suddenly change keys here? Because so far I've kept the same key the entire time, which has been interesting. And I did that on purpose because I was thinking that for a bard to suddenly, change keys, he has to take a break. And I thought, do I deserve a break yet? No, not yet. So maybe after book one, I can finally
Oh,
change key.
wow, wow. Oh, so interesting. This is illuminating because, of course, you know, never having tried to sing it, I haven't thought about that.
And I don't
But
know how realistic this is. I mean, looking at all this, again, I'm wondering if like, did they really do this? Did they, or did they get up every so often and go, okay, that was good. Let me take a little break. I'll come back. Like, how often do they take a break and get come back? And how often
uh,
did people ask them? So that was really interesting what you were singing. Yeah. Like did
well,
they?
the Odyssey is super interested in that, in the sort of dynamic between the audience and the performer. I mean,
Yes.
the Odyssey is all about that.
Yes.
Um,
So there's
you know,
2,000 lines or whatever. I think it was 2,000 lines that he sang, or like that he told them the story. Is 2,000 lines.
well, but you know, in the beginning, in the opening of in book one of the Odyssey, the singer in the household of Odysseus is um, entertaining the suitors of Penelope, and he's singing the songs of the poem says he's singing the painful return of the Achaeans from Troy. And Penelope hears this from upstairs, and she comes down the stairs, and she sort of shields her, face out of modesty. But she says to the singer, could you stop that? Like, sing something else, because this song is too sad. And why is it too sad? It's too sad because at the beginning of the Odyssey, there's no homecoming, song of Nostos, as it says, the return. There's no return song that can have Odysseus in it, because where's Odysseus? Nobody knows, you know. And so she says to the singer, how about something else? And then her son, Telemachus, um, responds and says, no, no, don't blame the singer. It's not his fault that this is a sad song, and that, and so forth. And he says, let him sing, what he wants to. And because he said, people always want to hear the latest song, you know, that's what they're interested in. And of course, they don't know, he doesn't know, and she doesn't know, and the singer doesn't know that the latest song is the one they're in, you know, it's the one that's forming around them, you know, and
Very meta moment, isn't it? It's a
very
very
meta
meta
moment.
moment.
So the Odyssey is really interested in that. In other words, in the you know, in the sort of collaboration of the audience with the singer, and the Odyssey is, you know, I've been thinking about this recently. I mean, it's interested in um, the sort of adaptability of the narrative, you know, and in when Odysseus is telling his story, you know, as you're saying, you know, singing it to the Phaeacians, and he's singing about his visit to the underworld, and he sings about the heroines of old, you know, the mothers of um, heroes, you know, and says, I saw so and so and so and so, so and so, these from previous generations, you know, like the Nestor behind everything. And so the king of the Phaeacians says, there's a kind of interruption. This is exactly what you're asking. In Odysseus says, this is in book 11, and Odysseus says, well, you know, it's late, I'm tired, you're tired, let's, you know, call it a night, and, you know, that's it. And the Phaeacians say, you know, are you kidding? Your song is so, you know, um, you know, brilliant and fascinating and so forth. We could stay up all night listening to it, right? And then the king says to him, you know, then it's the king who says this to him, and then he says, did you see any of the heroes from the Trojan War down there? And so Odysseus says, and the next person I saw was Agamemnon or something, you know. So it's this business about the response of the performer to the audience. You know, what is the audience, you know, what does the audience want? So the Odyssey is very interested in that whole process, and, you know, that whole dynamic. And you know, and that you know, and it recognizes that at some point the singer has to take a break. It's like it's late, you know. So anyway, so I mean, the Iliad has some pays some attention to singers, but not like the Odyssey. So that's your next project.
It is. I had just asked Twitter, hey, so what y'all think? What should my next scanning and whatever project be? And I didn't bring up, I mean, there's so many wonderful works out there. So I just gave them three choices. I said Homeric hymns, Orphic hymns, or the Odyssey. And I've done a little bit of each of those. But there was a close call between Homeric hymns and Odyssey. I didn't even try bringing up the Theogony or, you know, a few other wonderful things. But it was a close call between Homeric hymns
Yeah.
and
Oh well,
Odyssey.
the hymns would be great too.
Yeah,
You know, and that's
shorter. It's
yeah.
heck of a
Yeah.
lot shorter. Thank you for reminding me of all those wonderful passages in the Odyssey, because no doubt I'll be taking a little break from the Iliad. Uh, there
Yeah.
is
No,
this one passage though, Laura, that I'm so
mm,
fascinated by. All right, now I'm super interested in what you think about the shield of Achilles, because when we're talking about singers and so on, it reminded me that there's this wonderful part of that whole passage where they're talking about singers and people clapping and dancing. And was it during some sort of wedding or something? But I
well,
have to.
I mean, there are work songs, right? I mean, people are they're harvesting or whatever they're doing.
What book is that?
18.
18. Okay. That's why, because I was just scanning that whole. 18 is amazing, by the way. Book 18 is
Yeah,
amazing. It's like one of my favorite books.
it is.
I mean, there's that whole Hephaestus with his golden robots with the wheels and the
Oh
little
yeah, oh yeah.
ear
No, no, it's,
handles.
yeah. There's the wedding, but there's also, so there's singing and dancing for the wedding, but there's also,
Ah, yes, here we
um,
go. And so the bridal song and the men were whirling. Okay, so the men are dancing, the women are not dancing. The women are marveling at them. And then but there's the Avli and the Forminges that's going on there. As so with them were the Avlis and the Forminges. And then and then what else? Is that it? Is that the part? Okay, that got me really excited, I have to say. That part of it.
yes. Oh, here it is. Yeah, no, this is what I was thinking of. It's the herdsmen are playing their pipes. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, I didn't get to that. Okay.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay, let's see. All right. I'm reading that. Oh, the Linus song.
here,
Right,
it's
the
the
Linus
liner.
song shows up.
That's what it is.
Yeah, with his clear toned formingi, and then I love how they made they verbed
And there's dancing there too, right?
that easy. Yes, yeah. There's that skipping. They're skipping feet. They're dancing. They're shouting. They're beating the earth. I'm so interested every time they use, uh, when someone is using Chthon versus Gay for Earth. I'm I was just interested to see if there's ever a
Someone,
difference, how
I did
interchangeable
that.
they are.
Say that again, where someone is using what?
Oh, when it's Chthon or
Oh, I see. Yes.
when it's gay or when it's some other term for Earth, that always interests me, and definitely when they're using formingi, forminx, anything versus kithara, and I love how they they verbed it kitharize, so he's playing the lyre on his forminx. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out if it's ever any difference, but it just frustratingly, those words are so interchangeable apparently all over Iliad. So I don't know I will never know what kind of lyre they're using. That's why I keep paying attention to it. But I'm also
No,
looking at all those times when
think
they're
this is a
dancing.
thing to ask. This is a thing to ask Greg Nash about.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more singing and dancing, right, at the end of that, in the description of the shield. Yeah. Um, the sort of last thing before the ocean around the edge
Oh
of it.
yeah, there's the lovely dance. There's tumblers. There's the
Right.
tumblers whirling up and down, leading the dance right
Yeah.
before the
Yeah, I
mention
was gonna
of
look that up.
Oceanus.
Yeah.
So much dancing going on, and um, the fact that it compared the dancing floor to the one that Daedalus had made for
Yes.
Ariadne.
Ariadne. Yes.
I mean, just the reference of that. So again, a reference to something that was older than the time that's happening now.
Yes.
But so much singing and dancing in this round shield.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like
Yes.
the dancing is going around
Yes.
this.
Around. Yes. No, no, that's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's wonderful, Bettina. Yes, that the it's sort of following the pattern of the and the shape and so forth of the shield. Yeah, no, that's terrific. Um,
Gosh, and
I
I'm just
mean,
in book one, and I'm jumping all over the place ahead. It's that's the thing about this. The scanning it was already slowing me down. Forcing me to slow down and look, and then singing is another layer to making me slow down and take a look.
when you say scanning it, you mean metrically scanning it?
Yeah, metrically scanning it. So,
Right. Does it come to be sort of second nature as your,
gosh, no. I mean, yes and no on that. There are some parts that are difficult to scan. Just some. Like most of it, I am doing this.
yeah.
It is that. But then I'm like, wait, what? What just? Okay, what did I miss? Did I miss some sort of a, you
Mm,
know, something that I'm supposed to take out one? Okay, let me look at that again. Did I miss an illusion? Oh no.
mm, mm.
What am I missing here? Why is it not adding up to this? What did I miss? So I have to compare the lobe to the Perseus to see if I missed something. Because is it ei instead of eu? Is that what it was? There was an accent that was missing in the lobe. Is that why I or something? Um, but I'd scanned. I finished book 19. So 20, 21, 22, 23. No, did I finish 20? I finished 20. So I only have 21, 22, 23, 24. I only have four more books. And
Wow.
it really, I mean, I'm doing it so that I know what I'm singing because,
Yes, what you're singing toward, as it were.
right. And I do try to follow the accents. So when it's doing a circumflex, I do try to go up,
Mhm.
down, and when it's going up, especially, I do try to do that, and I do try to breathe in between, even like in a line when I'm trying to give it meaning. So I'm not just singing by rote line, singing by rote line. It's like I am trying to phrase each part and trying to make it meaningful. Um, but yeah,
Well, well,
scanning.
I'm here to say it's successful since I've listened to it.
Oh, thank you, Laura.
So
That means a lot.
yeah, I know. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
When I'm doing this funny project, it was, what, Bettina? Who's going to be listening to how many thousands of lines? Come on, do something else. And I said, oh, this. I said, I'm going to be listening to it I'm doing it for me. I'm doing this for the graduate me, like the graduate past me, the one that was sitting there going, well, how did it sound like? That's who I'm singing it for. If there's
Yeah,
anyone else that I'm trying to please, it's just the past me, and hopefully there are other total.
you're singing it for everybody.
I hope
Because,
it's useful to some people. Some people will enjoy it. Some people find it useful for their studies, and I've also started reading reading it in ancient Greek as well as in English side by side to go along with it. So, and I'm doing it like soft reading, what some people call ASMR, but
what
it's not.
translation do you use in the English?
Yeah, I'm just using the lobe.
Uh-huh.
I'm
I
just
can't remember now. I mean, that's a pretty,
I'm just using the lobe translation. This is
and
E.T.
whose
Murray revised.
translation is that?
It's Murray revised by
Oh, wow.
Wyatt,
Yeah.
and
So yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm using. Um, so and um, and I do check it with a Perseus Tufts for some. I lean towards the Perseus Tufts if there's any, if I have any questions, because sometimes I do, like, why isn't the scanning right? Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much for this is like really the third conversation we've had on Iliad Odyssey at this point, and that I recorded. But gosh, Laura, I mean, I can keep talking to you on and on about this, so I hope you keep coming back. You, I don't really know what I want to know about it until I converse with you. It's like you open up these.
I mean, I love the conversation, and I'm learning at least as much as you are, I assure you. So no, I think you have very really, you know, tremendously astute uh, and insightful, you know, reflections about the Iliad and about the the process of um, of performing and so forth. So no, it's great for me.
Is there a particular book that you think would be good to discuss? Because that will be happening in the next month.
Any book you would like,
Okay,
and any book you would like.
then we can discuss book 18 because so far that's like my favorite other one besides
Definitely
war.
can discuss book 18. And also, I mean, I think some of the things that you asked about earlier at the very beginning, that I would be happy to think more about. I mean, like the stuff about Nestor and his evocation of the earlier generations and so forth.
Phoenix, when
Yeah, no,
Phoenix
I'm
talks
happy to think
to
about that. And I will send you some thoughts about stuff that like Jinyo Kim's book on pity and Lenny's book on Menace and so forth.
yes, please.
And that book of Katie Kretler's, I think you would enjoy now, the thing about becoming the character, you know. And so the difference between singing those passages that are narrative passages and singing the actual dialogue,
Right.
sort of impersonating, as it were, becoming the character, as she says. So I think that would be fun for you, and I'm sure you would have a lot of thoughts that would be important for her. So anyway, we'll be in touch by email and text and everything.
Bye for now, and we'll talk later.
Thank you.